if Albo here basically says, no, we're going to do Australia first, you'd think that Trump would be able to look at that and go, okay, here's a guy who is putting his country first, and Trump is putting America first. There should be some sort of respect there. How much is AUKUS Australia US deal? Isn't it like 360 billion or something? Resource AUKUS price tag. Fate of AUKUS submarine deal may be delayed months. That's the Guardian. What does the Guardian reckon? Here we go. Fate of AUKUS nuclear submarine deal may be delayed months as UK and Australia wait on Trump review. Snap Trump administration review of the $360 billion deal announced a month ago, expected to extend beyond the initial 30-day time frame. 360 billion, okay. And what she reckons that it could be up for negotiation, that price. Australia and UK potentially face months for uncertainty. The future AUKUS agreement amid Trump expectations. Snap. Okay. Now, I can't recall, but I think early on when this whole Snap Trump administration review. Now, I feel like, and I'm not 100% on this, but I thought like Trump was kind of reviewing almost all things that were on the table, and it's kind of like the sort of language you use when you're like, oh, like everything's on the table. You can't, just let anything slide. It's like, it's a $360 billion, deal. These submarines are going to be a huge capability, risk, especially with everything that's going on. So I'm sure, this whole, everything's up for review. This actually could just be a whole lot of, I don't know, it could be blown up, but I don't know. Let's look more into it. Author of Britain's AUKUS review, Sir Stephen Longgrove, said both countries would contribute to the Pentagon assessment, but warned there was a way to go yet before advice to Trump was settled. The start date of the review, which is being led by the Undersecretary of Defense and AUKUS skeptic Colby, is unclear, but it's 30 days since the publicly announced. Labour sources agree the review isn't likely to be completed for months, while a Pentagon spokesperson told Guardian. Yep. Okay. Speaking during a visit to Australia and UK Prime Minister Starmer's Special Envoy, Lovegrove told the Australian policy think tank that AUKUS needs a strong public. He suggested Trump and the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, name their own representatives to speak up. Okay. It's not really too much in this. He said he did not believe the 30-day timeline was correct, but that it was appropriate for the new administration to access the agreement entered into by the former. Okay. There will be a position to reinforce and give support perspective to the review. We receive measures that will obviously, none of this is. It just, to me, it still just sounds like Trump has said we're gonna review it, and has given no indication on which way he'll go. AUKUS needs constant love and attention. It's a huge thing. That's good. I'm anticipating we'll be in a position to reinforce and give support through receive measures that will also consult our Australian colleagues. Yeah, as somebody said to me a couple of days ago, you don't buy a Lamborghini in order to take the children to school. If you're going to do something like this, you've got to explain why you're making such a very big commitment. see, here you go. This is what I'm saying. An Australian Defence Department spokesperson said, I mean, it'd be nice to know who that was, but said it was natural the US would want to examine progress against key milestones and identify further improvements in the deal. So this is, before we jump to conclusions, Australia engages widely and routinely with US officials on AUKUS and alliance matters. Australian defence officials have engaged with Elbridge since his commencement in the Pentagon, and we look forward to continued productive engagement, the spokesperson said. Foreign Minister Penny Wong and her US counterpart, Marco Rubio, are both attending talks of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Malaysia this week and could discuss the review. So, it still just sounds like all they've said is that there's going to be a review. Biden, I mean, we all know that like Trump is very anti-Biden, hates pretty much everything he's did, thinks that Biden like completely ruined the country, and so we're talking about like a $360 billion deal. I mean, the fact that he just said that we're going to review it, doesn't sound shocking. Wong told the meeting, I think what, from what I've seen, it just sounds like everyone's kind of throwing their arms up in the air because, there is no plan B for AUKUS. Huge commitment for the country. But, the way that our relationship is with the US at the moment with, even like all the tariffs on pharmaceuticals and all that sort of stuff, it just sounds like, a lot of people are paying attention to America at the moment. And so this is something that is going to heavily intertwine us with the US. We already have been with defense. Like almost all of our stuff with defense has been come from the US. So, whether you like it or not, US is always going to be heavily influencing the Australian defense force. So, but let's keep going. Wong told to transparently contribute to collective deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. This is going to be, the AUKUS is going to be such a huge influence on the Indo-Pacific sort of capability for US, Australia, all that sort of stuff, especially with like China sort of kicking off. Above all, our objectives is prevent conflict, preserve peace, and maintain. We may be bound to fate that chosen us. Colby's review could recommend the deal be changed rather than scrapped, with Australia required to pay more to support the US shipbuilding capacity or guarantee nuclear submarines be committed in the event of an American conflict with China. Okay. Why are they saying could recommend the deal be changed? Like, has Colby said that, or is this just inferring? Like, who said it was going to be scrapped? Like, I didn't see anything about it being scrapped. No. Looks like it says it's going to be everything sort of read as if it was going to. Okay. The Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade, Matt Thistlethwaite. Told ABC Governor, the government was confident AUKUS remained strong and would be maintained despite media speculation. Absolutely. The defence relationship between Australia has never been stronger. The uncertainty about AUKUS comes ahead of Albanese's visit to China, beginning of the weekend, and amid concerns about so this is what I was talking about before about the 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals. The White House has already publicly called for Australia to lift defence spending to 3.5% of GDP. Okay, so Anyways, we just wanted to know what the $360 billion deal was, I guess.
Pact, which is currently under review by the US. The Trump administration wants to ensure that the Biden-era pact aligns with the America First policy.
Yeah.
Last month.
So, exactly what I was saying. So, in that review, Trump literally, anything that Biden has done, Trump basically wants to go back through it with a fine-tooth comb and just say, does this align with the America First policy that he's set on doing? Whether he thinks Australian is America First or not, that's up for debate. But that's what it kind of sounds like. It sounds like Trump's like, we're going to go through everything. So it's a $360 billion deal, and from what I know, none of the nuclear subs are even built yet, or going to be close to. Not even the ones for the US. So, if they make them and they're meant to deliver them to Australia, it kind of sounds like, the US want to be able to have access to those subs if there is a conflict with China, which is protecting that Indo-Pacific region. So that all kind of all makes sense. So it doesn't sound like there should be anything scrapped, which the Guardian read before.
On the 12th of June, the Pentagon announced a 30-day review of the AUKUS submarine deal.
Yeah, 30-day
now,
review.
As the review deadline approaches, questions arise. What changes could the US demand?
Now, what's this? 2021, US, UK, and Australia signed $239 billion AUKUS submarine pact. Okay, so it's changed.
Some reports have emerged, and they offer us a clue. Let's take a look. The first possibility: the US might want Australia to pay more money for the elite American submarines.
Trump might want Australia to use US-made subs against China reports. Wait, that's not what you just said.
The second demand could be that want Australia to pay. Take a look. The first possibility: the US might want Australia to pay more money for the elite American submarines.
Yeah.
The second demand could be that Washington might want Canberra to give a public declaration that these submarines would support the US in a possible war with China. The conclusion of the...
I wonder where she's
AUKUS deal review comes at a critical time for Australia. Prime Minister Albanese is beginning a 6-day tour of China on the 12th of July. During the visit, Albanese will hold his third meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping since coming to power. Though Albanese has affirmed Canberra's support for AUKUS, he also signalled that Australia will pursue its own interests first. Albanese has rejected Washington's calls for Canberra to spend more on defence.
Yeah, okay. So
Albanese has rejected Washington's calls for Canberra to spend more on defence.
I definitely know that.
Though Albanese...
See, Albo's actually been quite strong on the 3.5% GDP thing, which I think is good. And I think he, whether Trump does it or not, but Albo's kind of position on being, where Australia's only going to spend as much as it is going to on defence, that is respective of the capability it needs, and it believes that it is investing enough money to achieve that capability, which is a part of the Defence Strategic Review. They're continuously increasing their investment in defence each year, which is what they're showing. But Trump is basically saying everyone to basically put more money into defence anyway. So we saw sort of NATO places doing that, but Albo is sticking strong, saying that we're already investing enough into defence, and we're putting more into Medicare, and that's why our pharmaceuticals are cheaper, and they still don't like that either. So I don't understand. They just want us to put more into defence spending, I guess. Probably that way they can... wonder if that's why they... I wonder if that's what's going to come out of this. Is prediction. They're going to want Australia to put more money into this AUKUS deal to basically offset what we don't put into our overall defence spending. I wonder how that will play out.
He has affirmed Canberra's support.
So if Albo here basically says, no, we're going to do Australia first, you'd think that Trump would be able to look at that and go, okay, here's a guy who is putting his country first, and Trump is putting America first. There should be some sort of respect there, but no.
For AUKUS, he also signalled that Australia will pursue its own interests first. Albanese has rejected Washington's calls for Canberra to spend more on defence after NATO allies agreed to increase military spending in recent weeks.
See, I see what how that can look with NATO increasing their spending but then Australia isn't at the request of Trump. But NATO is heavily, some of the NATO countries are heavily tied into the Ukraine-Russia conflict. So, and Australia isn't a part of NATO. So it's kind of not, I guess you can't really compare it 100%.
Now, coming back to the AUKUS deal, which is at the center of this chaos, the Trilateral Security Pact signed in 2021 between the US, the UK and Australia centers on transfer of US submarine technology. Under the $239 billion deal, spanning 30 years, Australia will acquire 3 Virginia-class nuclear submarines from the US starting in 2032. This will be followed...
Yeah, I'm just going to write down some notes on this. Let's do this. Submarine notes. Okay, yeah, so let's go back. So what have we got? So we've got 2021.
Under the $239 billion deal, spanning 30 years, Australia will acquire 3 Virginia-class nuclear submarines from the US starting in 2032. This will be followed by new jointly designed submarines for the UK and Australia.
To get 3 US nuclear subs, right? I'm using Notion here, so I don't know if... Oh yeah, sweet. Okay, so 2021, 239 billion over 30 years, 3 US subs, and
starting in 2032. This will be followed by new jointly designed submarines for the UK and Australian navies. The pact also covers cooperation on advanced capabilities, including long-range hypersonic missiles, undersea robotics, and AI. This deal is not a mere exchange of defense technology. It is an attempt by the US to counter growing Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific. And Washington needs support from its allies in the Indo-Pacific, especially Australia. So Trump-led US has every reason to support the deal. Why did the need for a review arise then? Now, Trump's top defense hawk, Albridge Colby, is the man leading the review. Colby is not very pleased with the US sharing nuclear submarine technology with allies. His argument? Colby says the US was not building enough submarines for its own defense and would not sell submarines to Australia if that might jeopardize American interests. Right after the review was announced...
Okay. He told the US Senate Armed Service Committee that the US was not building enough submarines for its own defense and would not sell submarines to Australia if that might jeopardize American interests. It's so vague, man. I mean, I think the biggest thing, well, I think anyway, the biggest thing with like the whole US, Australia, and China thing is that we're so heavily influenced by China too. So I can understand to maybe some degree that like US might look at Australia and be like, well, hang on a second, what, is there a risk there that could jeopardize American interests? But I guess this is kind of saying US is not building enough submarines. I mean, yeah, like they don't have theirs, so that's kind of the whole thing with if they do build them, give them to Australia, then US could probably say, hey, we need them now, give them back, while they have a conflict with China.
Right after the review was announced last month,
a US review of a deal to provide Australia with nuclear submarines is routine, the Defence Minister says, despite,
Australia chose to remain calm. Canberra labelled the Pentagon's review as routine and say that they are confident that the AUKUS pact will proceed. The UK, too, believes the same. The stakes are high. The review is expected to be out soon. If the Trump administration walks out of the AUKUS pact, it will be a big win for China. And if the US stays, it remains to be seen on what terms.
I doubt they're going to pull out, but no, it's Trump.
$36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor.
Hindi.
What else is going on?
Anthony Albanese is packing his bags. Tomorrow he is bound for China for a meeting with President Xi Jinping.
Overnight, our own Foreign Minister Penny Wong prodded the Asian superpower, branding its military build-up worrying.
So, should we be worried? Well, not according to former Prime Minister Paul Keating, but if you ask other analysts, they will tell you that Beijing is clearly preparing for war.
And as our national affairs editor Hugh Remington is about to show you, its military might is hiding in plain sight for all to see.
China is in such a frenzy of warship and submarine construction right now, it is literally stacking them up.
That looks to me like 2 ballistic missile carrying submarines.
And what about that?
That's an attack submarine.
You don't even need classified military technology to see it for yourself.
So that will be a fast attack boat that's designed to essentially sink the American fleet.
It's all there on Google Maps, if you know where to look. Peter Jennings is a former Defense Department Deputy Secretary and now Senior Independent Strategic Analyst.
These are the ballistic missile carrying subs, which are sort of deep Pacific Ocean operating, designed to send, potentially nuclear weapons to the United States or any other location.
And they've got 2 of them just stacked up on one pier.
That's pretty amazing to see that.
Anyone?
Yeah, I mean they've got military capability. I don't understand why that's so doomsday the way that they're presenting that. It's US has got nuclear weapons, so do other countries. What's with the now they've got subs that could carry missiles that could go and just of course they've got a military.
Anyone at home can call this up on Google Maps and find and look at these submarines.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. I mean, obviously it doesn't give you real-time data, but back in the day when I was involved in our own imagery organisation, we would love to have had resolution of that quality.
And the closer you look, the more extraordinary it gets. Here, a nuclear intercontinental ballistic missile submarine is being rearmed.
There's a crane on the actual dock.
Okay, so that's carrying ICBs on that sub, hey? That's pretty cool, actually.
Side, which looks like it's working against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 open hatches. These could be vertical launchers for cruise missiles.
There is an irony here.
Hello, how are you, Bob?
Good.
Nice to see you.
A dozen years ago, Julia Gillard led Australia's largest ever diplomatic mission to China to meet and make friends with the new leader, Xi Jinping.
My congratulations to you on your election to the position of president.
But even as they exchanged diplomatic courtesies on Hainan Island, just a few kilometres away on the same island, Xi Jinping was steering the policies that would lead to today's growing fleet of nuclear submarines, complete with armoured tunnels to house them.
An extensive complex of underground, underwater facilities for submarine arming and maintenance.
At another base near Qingdao, another clue to China's intentions.
What you're seeing here is the very forces that would actually be used in an amphibious operation against Taiwan.
Wait, where was that?
Used in an amphibious operation.
Intentions.
What you're seeing here is the very forces that would actually be used in an amphibious operation against Taiwan. Maintenance.
At another base near Qingdao, another clue.
Qingdao. I absolutely know how to spell this, but Qingdao, China Navy base. Let's just see how well I did that. Oh yeah, I was heaps close. Oh, maybe that's it. Let's see if we can find that, eh? Let's see if it's Yeah.
To China's intentions.
What you're seeing here is the very forces that would actually be used in an amphibious operation against Taiwan.
Four brand new helicopter carrier warships.
So that exists for an invasion of Taiwan?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, there's very little other purposes that you could think of why you would need that degree of helicopter lift capability at sea.
It is Xi Jinping's stated intention to take Taiwan by 2027.
Why would that be Australia's fight?
China will be worried about the intelligence that we gather at Pine Gap. It'll be worried about where the Australian Navy is operating, where our Air Force is operating.
So a war over Taiwan would be a war that we could not avoid?
Absolutely.
It's not just Pine Gap near Alice Springs that would be vulnerable, but other key military bases, including our largest, Stirling, south of Perth, and Fleet Base East in the heart of Sydney Harbour.
Now, that could mean, for example, a missile strike designed to disable any ships that might be in the harbour.
Alright, so it kind of sounds like he's... What I'm getting from that is China has these submarines, these nuclear submarines, that can travel into Australian waters or just on the border. This is what they did. When they do that, they basically went all the way around Australia, pretty much undetected. Was that back in February? I can't remember when they did that. And they can have these ICBs on these submarines, and now they're saying that it's within their capability of being able to strike Stirling, possibly Pine Gap, and Sydney Harbour Naval Base. Well, not Sydney Harbour Naval Base, but yeah, that's what it kind of sounds like he's trying to paint the picture of.
War in Taiwan, missiles raining down on Sydney Harbour. Not everyone is buying it.
I think there's a lot of unnecessary anxiety.
Few Australians have spent longer thinking more deeply about China than our former ambassador, Jeff Raby.
The fear is easy to generate, and I think seldom subject to any serious analytical scrutiny.
We're paranoid, is that it?
Well, that's your word, but we're easily scared.
He believes Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the global blowback against Putin have blunted Xi's ambitions for a crack at Taiwan.
Some people describe Russia as a gas station run by gangsters, and I think that pretty much sums it up. China's in a very different position with respect to the rest of the world, and the Chinese elites do not aspire to be part of a renegade rump of states like Russia or North Korea or around. They see themselves in a vastly different way.
But if they have a different read on China's intentions, these men agree on one thing: the poor state of readiness of our defence force.
It's underfunded, it's too small, it's rapidly ageing in terms of a great deal of the military technology that it uses.
Do you think we need to arm up ourselves much harder?
What is the Australian Defence Force definition of readiness? Because when they say readiness, in Australian ADF, readiness generally refers to the ability of the force or its components to meet the demands of assigned missions and to deploy on operations within a specified time frame. It encompasses various aspects, including the individual readiness, equipment readiness, and collective training, all of which contribute to the overall preparedness of the ADF. So strategic, these kind of all just intuitively kind of make sense, but strategic and tactical readiness. While tactical readiness focuses on the ability to address current challenges, strategic readiness considers how ADF leverages broader national power, geography, and other factors to ensure future preparedness. ADF aims to be both ready now for immediate operational needs and future ready for potential long-term strategic challenges. So this is kind of where AUKUS, I guess, is, in my mind, kind of coming into. It's not like an immediate threat now. It's basically to contribute to this preparedness, preparedness management systems. AF uses PMS to manage preparedness plan and resource allocation and report on performance. Yeah, so okay, yeah. So when we look at like readiness, it's not just like you need to have it all now. It's also trying to be ready now in the future too.
It's rapidly aging in terms of a great deal of the military technology that it uses.
Do you think we need to arm up ourselves much harder?
I certainly, and I've argued this previously, we do need to spend much more on defence. Everyone will need to be.
We remain the lucky country, but the neighbourhood is changing fast.
The things you can find on Google Earth, eh?
Australia needs to cancel the AUKUS submarine deal and go back to France and say sorry. And it is not because of nuclear subs. This I support. But when you are so reliant on a foreign government that can, at whim, not provide what you need to defend yourself, that's an issue. I mean, I don't think there's anything that France isn't going to turn around and basically be super soy and be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's not even going to have the capability and the time anyway, I don't think. Another issue is Trump administration using pretext of an AUKUS review to try and force agreement with the Australian government to commit to future. See, this is stupid. Another issue is the Trump administration is using pretext of an AUKUS review to try and force an agreement from the Australian government to commit to a future war against China. Now, I don't think what that sort of implies is that Trump sees a future war against China. I don't think that they actually want to go to war, and I don't think they will. I know they went back and forth on the trade war sort of thing, if that's what you want to call it, but I don't think there's going to be an all-out war. Kind of like what's, I don't even think it's even going to get anything like what's gone on with Iran and Israel or anything like that, or Ukraine and Russia. Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but like I just don't see it. But who knows? But when you say here, like trying to force Australia's hand, like in the day, like I think Trump would just rather want it all instead of forcing Australia to join. He'd probably be better off just trying to take it. Yeah, it's brought up by the Australian. Okay, I don't like that either. I'm really nitpicking this one person, sorry. But as reported by the Australian Colby's AUKUS reviews to see how it alters US. Yeah, so that's taking what that is and then implying whatever. That looks AI. What? July 2? Yeah, okay. I was going to say, what the fuck is Biden doing? AUKUS cooked behind closed doors. What's this? AUKUS was cooked up by a few blokes in suits and uniforms behind closed doors, sprung on the Australian people overnight. Australia has an opportunity to get out of AUKUS security pact. We should take it. What opportunity do we... Like, what do you see as the opportunity? Add Janine to the call. I don't think so. Yeah, what it's... let's see what she says.
Of our relationship with the one of the huge features of our relationship with the United States in recent years has been the AUKUS Security Pact. The US has just announced a big inquiry into the deal, but
I mean, mean, I want to go to town on using the word big inquiry. Like, what's a small inquiry? What's a big inquiry? Why can't it just be an inquiry?
The US has just announced a big inquiry into the deal, but Australia we floated into it without any real debate, and we haven't even really had a big parliamentary debate or inquiry, have we?
No, we've had almost nothing, and that is pretty extraordinary when you think about the nature of this deal. You know, if it succeeded, it's a heroic if, it would be the biggest shift in Australian defence policy in decades. It would be the biggest transfer of Australian sovereign wealth in our history. And it was cooked up by a few blokes in suits and uniforms behind closed doors, sprung on the Australian people overnight. It wasn't put to Treasury, as far as we know. It was barely put to the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
What's $368 billion between allies?
That's right. Well, as former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg said, anything's affordable if it's a priority, right? And this is the attitude, you know, that there is no accountability when it comes to spending in defence, but also when it comes to decision making.
What? Either I don't understand it, which is quite probably likely, but the AUKUS deal, from my understanding, did not just come overnight, or the money to spend on it. It is a multifaceted, investment, anyways, between US, UK, and Australia. And if you look through the Defence Strategic Review, AUKUS is a big part of that, and that in general have been something that's been on the cards for a long time. So I don't know why she's saying cooked up behind closed doors. And again, like from what we've seen with what Colby has been saying, is they're wanting to review this deal mainly because Trump just doesn't like everything Biden did, and Biden was a part of this big deal. So he's wanting to go through it because he has this whole America First sort of policy kind of thing, and then you've got Colby basically being like, "Nah, we're gonna, we have America's interest first, and we're gonna go through absolutely everything to make sure that we are the priority for the Indo-Pacific capability." So I don't know why they're saying cooked up, because when you look at that timeline, that all makes sense. And in Australia's deal in it is because we want the support with the US. We have most of our defense force capability is basically entangled with the US. Like a lot of our aircraft, like B-8 Poseidon, Triton, all these other systems are all hand in hand with the US. So it's no surprise that we're going to do this deal with the US. I just don't, I just don't think this really makes any sense. And deployment starting 2027. We'll begin restaurant deployments to training. See, listening to what that lady was sort of saying here,
$168
was $365
billion, but $68 billion. But
that's typo. Between allies. I mean, I know that sounds grossly huge. But I kind of feel like if you're going to knock it back, then you kind of need to say how much do you actually think it should cost then? If you're going to have such a strong opinion that it shouldn't cost that, then why? What do you think it should cost? This is a project that has never ever been done, by anyone, It's integrating the US, UK, and Australia. New technology. It's going to be a lot of integration between all those three governments. A lot of base expansions. There's, why is that number too high for you? I guess is what I'm thinking. Construction. Submarines will be both. I want Sharia. The fuck is Sharia? Don't like Western politics. It's not for everyone. Construction will be built in the early 2040s. That's so far away. Pillar 2, advanced capabilities, collaboration and advanced capability. The AUKUS partners will also collaborate. Funding 3 billion contribution. Australia will contribute 3. Is Islamic law. Okay, I definitely don't know anything about Islamic law. Funding allocation. We definitely don't do any Islamic law in Australia that I know of. Definitely not where I am. 3 billion contribution. Australia will contribute 3 billion over the next 4 years. Actually, what's okay. I'm a little bit fatigued on AUKUS now.